Good evening, this is the Oscar Expert here with Brother Bro, and it's time for SAG and DGA predictions. We're smushing them into one video. Because they are smushed into the same day. Let's start out with SAG predictions, because I think that's quite exciting. Start out with Stunt Ensemble. Mission Impossible and John Wick seem like the no-brainers in this category, although I will say John Wick has never been nominated in this category, but I think we can understand that there's like something going on with the stunts and people talking about it in a way they haven't with the other films, so I think it's fine.
I don't think I've ever heard a film stir up so much conversation for a best stunt category at the Oscars.
Yeah. Ferrari seems like a good bet to me because they nominated Rush and Ford v Ferrari, so I think that's fine. I think that's enough. What else do you need to say? When I was looking at what SAG usually does here, and they usually go with Marvel movies and stuff, but they've never gone with a Guardians film. So I'm not putting Guardians in. I know this isn't a Marvel movie, but it's like Disney blockbuster adjacent. Dial of Destiny. They also nominated Crystal Skull for stunts. They had like Indiana Jones jumping from like cart to cart and stuff. I'm also just worried generally that movie might get like, you know, score and visual effects at the Oscars. Like, I don't know if it's dead for like these tech awards and stuff. And I also think Napoleon could happen because, you know, big epic battle scenes. Lots of stunts, people falling off horses, I'm sure. Other people may have the Iron Claw here. That is also possible. The zero presence of this movie anywhere, I don't know. I'm not gonna like randomly predict that SAG starts to do it. It's very much not looking like this is gonna be a best picture type of looking category this year.
I think people predicted Everything Ever All at Once here.
And it didn't even happen.
It didn't happen last year. That kind of makes me think something like Polite Society wouldn't happen.
Polite Society can't happen for that reason. Maybe The Killer, though. Maybe The Killer can get in. I mean, they have that one really great
I can see the Marvels
scene
getting into, like,
yeah,
you know, Extraction,
like Black Widow.
Extraction 2 makes sense as well.
Everybody forgot about Extraction 2.
Fine.
Even the critics. You'd think the critics would be going for that instance, but they haven't. Yeah. Supporting actor, Robert Downey Jr., Ryan Gosling, Mark Ruffalo. I don't think anybody has any questions about the top three. I don't really know what to do here, because Charles Melton missing the BAFTA long list got me a little worried. I was like, shit, what if he's like Kristen Stewart and Spencer, where people are feeling cold by the movie, and then he just barely makes it in the Oscar on like the skin of his teeth, doesn't even get SAG and BAFTA. Like, I still want to predict him for the Oscar anyway.
He's just too good. He's too many people's favorite.
It's a bit of an odd movie for people, but here's the other thing I think that's working for it. Netflix usually plays well at SAG. Maybe that's because actors like to watch Netflix, and I feel like May December was pretty buzzy. Yeah. May December was like talked about a lot. And
yeah, it's not like the movie hasn't had eyeballs, you know?
I do want to still have him in.
I want to put him in as well.
I'm going to keep him in. I'm worried, though. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if they just did an annoying thing and didn't nominate him here.
All right, if you say so.
Then there's De Niro, who there's no real reason to think he wouldn't get it. I don't know, maybe him and DiCaprio are vulnerable at SAG. There's a feeling that they are. Well, I guess the question is, are there tasty alternatives?
So, I guess I would just say right here, if we predict this 5... we're going to get 4 out of 5 most likely, right?
Yeah.
I mean, maybe 5 out of 5, but you kind of guarantee, you kind of lock in that you're going to get 4 slots, I think. Because I think those are objectively like the people who are getting nominated the most. If I want to go off of a hunch, I do feel like Sterling K. Brown could turn up here.
Yeah, that's.
It just feels like something that would happen.
Yeah, that feels very SAG friendly. They might even like it in ensemble. Perhaps.
Maybe.
I kind of get why he's like not quite getting in, but I also understand why he's a contender.
Willem Dafoe also has so much love from actors in general, right? Like, he's just so many people's favorite or one of their favorite actors. So maybe there is some passion for him, where he's like been number 6 everywhere, and he might just pop up to number 5 here.
Well, he's been number 7 some places.
Okay.
If we're comparing Willem Dafoe to like Judi Dench for Belfast, or
why would we do that? Why on earth would we do that?
Well, the leapfrogging.
He's not going to replace Mark Ruffalo.
No, he could replace somebody else though, or Judd Hirsch for The Fabelmans, perhaps. I'm just saying, what if it's like, oh, well, Willem Dafoe gets into the Oscar because the Oscars love him and he's a vet.
I think the situation with Poor Things is different from other years where like they don't know who to pick because they're getting in everywhere. Like, there's one actor who's getting it everywhere, and there's one who isn't. Yeah, and then there's one who's a maybe.
I mean, maybe he's Woody Harrelson in 3 Billboards, where like he happens to get in. Like,
that's fair.
This is where he shows really strong.
Sure,
but I think him being weak overall does speak to something. I don't think that this is a performance that's like, oh, Willem Dafoe like did something so unexpected from what we know of him. Like Mark Ruffalo was like, wow, we haven't seen him do that. Like, give him a nomination.
It's not what Mark Ruffalo is doing. I mean, Dominic Sessa is basically a lead in The Holdovers, right? So got a ton of screen time. He has been having a hard time cracking the top 5. You know, he doesn't have like a name recognition. It might just not happen for him. It feels like it's just not going to. Like he's not going to come along with The Holdovers.
Yeah, but he's getting a lot of buzz. I think he's kind of close. Maybe he's like Lucas Hedges' Manchester by the Sea, which SAG's like more likely to nominate that kind of thing than other places, though. I think
they're more likely to nominate younger performers. That's right. Jacob Tremblay in Room and Helena Zengel in News of the World.
Yeah, those are children, but
he's not a child. But
yeah. I think it feels weird to try to predict the consensus 5 here, but I don't know that I can doubt Robert De Niro enough or Melton enough. Like, the supporting actress, Divine Joy Randolph, Holdovers, she's going to win probably. Danielle Brooks is going to get in for Color Purple, and Emily Blunt easily for Oppenheimer. I mean, Emily Blunt's a SAG favorite. That top 3 is going to happen, and if it didn't, I would explode in many parts of my body. And then this is where you can do a lot of things, and I think I'm gonna have some fun talking about this one. Jodie Foster, I feel okay about.
I don't know what you have to justify this a little bit to me. Jodie I don't know Foster, why you feel so
this is exactly what this is. This is exactly what this is. Even if you think that she's like a random thing that's gonna die, like Ben Affleck in The Tender Bar, or Jamie Foxx for Just Mercy.
I just think Nyad does not go that far. Nyad gets 0 nominations. I've always felt this way.
Eddie Redmayne for The Good Nurse is a good one as well.
Sure.
But I think that Jodie Foster goes along here. I think she continues to get nominated here. You've been a doubter the whole time, but to be fair, she has Golden Globe and Critics' Choice.
Globe. She got Look, the person I feel most confident about outside of the top 3 is America Ferrera and Barbie, because I think they're gonna have a Barbie fest. Yeah. I think it's going to be a Barbie bonanza. Yeah. They're going to throw a party for the movie.
Okay, I kind of agree with you. I think more people should be predicting America Ferrera, and I don't know why they aren't, because she hasn't been doing that bad. She got, what is she? She got Critics' Choice, not Golden Globe. It's not amazing, but like, I do kind of agree that I want to say that they're going to have a Barbie party.
Yeah. A Barbie bonanza.
Or a Barbie bonanza, sure, we can call it that if you want.
That's what it's called.
Now, some people have a hard time considering both of these, and I think most people kind of agree that Jodie Foster's going to happen. Do you agree to Jodie Foster?
I don't know yet. I'm not done going through the other possibilities.
So why do I think Julianne Moore is not getting nominated for May December? We made the case that Charles Melton, we still think he's getting in. She was the only actor that even got longlisted at BAFTA, right? And she's a name. As we said, May December.
She's been getting nominated.
Do I think she's getting nominated everywhere? I don't really think so.
Yeah, it'd be weird if she got nominated everywhere. Like, I think what you're doing here is like saying, hey, if she doesn't feel like she's gonna go to every single award show, then maybe this is just the one where she doesn't get nominated, or like maybe it's one of 2.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know about BAFTA, her making it in or not.
I don't know either.
But May December, it kind of, I think it peaked a few weeks ago. I don't know if that matters that much.
I think the character is odd and very unlikable, like really unsavory, but not in a fun way, not in like a serial killer way, just a way that you're like, ugh, like just gives you a gross feeling. Yeah. I mean, my God, she is excellent in the movie.
I just think it's a little more criticky. I think the performance is a little more criticky, and here at SAG is where you can go for something like Amy Adams and Hillbilly Elegy. Even Rosamund Pike vs. Saltburn feels like a SAG pick to me.
Jodie Foster, though, she didn't get nominated for the Mauritanian here, did she?
No. But Nyad's a little, I don't know, Nyad feels more like a wee SAG movie.
It's just her.
Oh, a lot of people think Benning's getting nominated. In fact, she's in the consensus 5 for Double Derby.
I think that's wild.
Look at them.
Why are they like the most visible? They're the most visible thing on the shelf.
They look like 2 goats in an Ireland cliffside pasture.
A steamy blue mountain cliff.
I also think Pike is a possibility. Now, something about this the entire year has been like itching at me and saying that this is like J.K. Simmons for Being the Ricardos, which is like, I always had a feeling that it could happen. But here's where that's different. He coattailed some leads. Now, I'm not saying whether or not she's getting the Oscar, but maybe she's even Cate Blanchett for Nightmare Alley, where it's like, oh, because I feel like Saltburn, while it is easy to say maybe it gets no nominations and it's dead, something about it has persisted a little bit. Just a little bit. Like at the Critics' Choice it shows up, and at the Golden Globes it gets 2 acting nominations, and
it would be
it did pretty well.
It's funny you say Nightmare Alley, because it would be a lot like that getting into Best Picture, but that didn't get any.
No, it got Cate Blanchett got a SAG nomination.
Oh yeah.
Which like you could say, oh well, there's a crumb for that movie that maybe you can follow along and say that's part of.
Sure.
I would make the case that Saltburn's not dead, and also Saltburn happens to be very popular in a way. I feel like it's a movie actors would like and are talking about. And it's very influencer friendly, and SAG feels influencer-y now. Saltburn may show up here or in Ensemble. I don't know if it gets both or if it just gets one. I mean, look, they liked Babylon last year too.
They sure did.
I mean, they didn't give it any acting nominations.
They sure did. If you're thinking that Saltburn gets into Ensemble, you might be tempted to say that she gets into Supporting Actress as well to go along with it.
I mean, I could say that even just...
I don't know if... I mean, look, we had Babylon and Women Talking make it into SAG Ensemble last year with no other nominations.
And they had performances.
Oh yeah, you could have nominated several people in each.
I don't know if I can predict it because I agree about America Ferrera and I want to still say Jodie Foster.
What do people see in Jodie Foster's performance? You got this, Naiad. Go, girl.
I mean, she was like an emotional center of the movie. She had some good like yelling scenes where she laid into her best friend.
Yeah, I mean, I think she was better than Annette Bening. What if Air decides to float its way up, like hot air balloon its way into the SAGs, and then it gets Ensemble and Supporting Actress? It was bound to have a presence at the Globes, like with actor, and then it's kind of surprised to get into comedy, so that's a plus for it. But then like it's still missed Viola Davis at the Globes, and they had 6 slots. Air, I don't really know where it is right now. It doesn't feel like it's as much in there as other movies.
No.
And even though they do love Viola Davis and they rarely pass up the opportunity to nominate her, or hell, like they've given her more awards than the Academy Awards, it just matters more to me that the movie is not as visible right now.
Yeah. Viola Davis may not have gotten the Oscar nom for The Woman King, but she got Golden Globe and Critics' Choice. Like, she doesn't even have that for this. I mean, I get that they love Viola Davis and everything. I mean, maybe Air will get Ensemble too. I wouldn't be shocked if that happened.
It could. Yeah, so there's a lot of wild cards. I mean, if they did Rachel McAdams, like that would be saving her, and that's like that's like a bold thing for...
Which is weird, because you'd think the Critics' Choice would be the ones who have to save her, but maybe SAG has to step up to the plate. Penelope Cruz for Ferrari is a long shot that I don't think is impossible. It feels like she would have a nomination by now, and
she should be having more nominations by now.
It actually feels very SAG friendly for them to do something like that to me.
Yeah.
But because she hasn't been nominated at the Globes or Critics' Choice, I'm not going to do it.
Taraji P. Henson is interesting too, because although I don't think she'll be nominated, she has been in the news a lot lately, and I'm sure voters have seen those clips because she's talking about like what it's like to be an actor, right? She's been outspoken about her treatment and her pay, and she's in The Color Purple, which I actually think SAG might like a lot. You know, it would be fascinating if she could get in here. I don't think there's enough evidence going forward that she will. I mean, The Color Purple's been underperforming everywhere, and so for this to get like 3 acting nominations and Ensemble would be like,
yeah, that's
holy
too
shit,
much
you
for me.
Overperformed? Like, damn.
I also wouldn't be shocked if America Ferrera just isn't there, and I'm like, oh, I guess she's just not happening.
I would be really surprised, honestly.
But she's also campaigning a lot. I've seen her campaigning, and
she's like a Barbie cheerleader too. You know, she owned the monologue, so now she gets to be like a mouthpiece for what the movie really is about. I guess I'll just go with it because, you know, you wouldn't put Jodie Foster for Naiad in for any like biased reason. Like, you're just doing that because you purely think that's
I don't know why you don't think it seems like it's happening. Like, it totally seems like that's what is.
I just feel like I've always just thought the Naiad girls weren't gonna do anything.
Well, they're doing something. They already are doing it. Best Actress, I think Lily Gladstone. I have her at number 1. Look, I'm going off of the you know, the Golden Globe got me.
I think you got to do it. You got to do it.
I think so. Emma Stone getting nominated easily, and I think if there's a number 3, it's Margot Robbie.
Strangely enough,
I don't understand how she would miss SAG. I think that'd be insane.
Enough, yes.
I'd be so shocked because not only is she performing better than expected in general with critics. Like, she's part of the Critics' Consensus 5 right now. But, I mean, SAG, like, yeah, they're gonna like this.
Now, Carey Mulligan, I wish that I didn't have in the back of my mind Michelle Williams and The Fabelmans, because I love Carey Mulligan's performance here. You've pointed out to me that some critics are just passing over her. Like, they're just skipping over her, and yet they'll nominate Bradley Cooper, but
that's not more than twice as many nominations so far.
It just doesn't make sense. I think it's because Bradley Cooper, being the literal face of the movie, is like stealing a little bit of the conversation away from her. I don't want to go against it because she's felt really strong, and heck, I could just see them going for like both the leads in Maestro, right?
Yeah, I mean, I get that there's reason to doubt it, and you can say that it's Michelle Williams and The Fabelmans. Another example could be like how Amanda Seyfried in Mank just was a kind of random miss for something that was attached to Best Picture.
Yeah, I mean, we're going to see a random miss somewhere, right? This category is insane. I mean, I think the top 7 everyone has a really strong argument.
Or the top 8.
I don't know, but really? you think Annette Bening and Nyad too?
She's like, well, she's part Gold Derby thinks she's getting in. But I'm gonna say no because I think that I just don't think Nyad is a 2 SAG nominations. Like, I'm sorry, I just don't think it's gonna get 2. All right, that's where I stop on. Yeah, Carey Mulligan, I can't go against it because. Sure, like, the Meister hype seems like it's dying. It went down to a 3.3 on Letterboxd, whatever.
Jesus.
Maybe Fantasia's number 4. Do I think Fantasia's number 4?
That's like maybe okay to say because I can't really tell you like who would have the better odds. Fantasia, I think, is gonna get in here. I would be surprised if she didn't. It feels like a rah-rah SAG movie. And even though The Color Purple's been underperforming,
and I
think this is where she has also been underperforming.
Without the Critics' Choice nomination, that was like, woof.
Yeah.
Woof. But listen. This is where Jennifer Hudson got nominated for Respect. And people didn't think it was going to happen because she wasn't doing well before.
Yeah.
And lo and behold. And I think that The Color Purple is going to get an ensemble nomination.
Yeah. So, I think that's an easier prediction to make.
Also, Fantasia kind of made sense to me from the beginning as just like, that just makes sense. And for her to get like absolutely nothing and not even get SAG.
That's dirty.
Yeah, I mean, I think she will not get the Oscar nomination. I think that The Color Purple's weakening. But I feel okay with having her in here. Now, Carey Mulligan's a good bet, but I am tempted by another option.
You're tempted to call like a major snub for Carey Mulligan?
I'm just tempted by another option. I'm not even talking about the snub.
Sure.
I think Sandra Hüller's getting snubbed, okay?
You've always thought that.
Well,
and maybe
Isabelle
you're right.
Huppert didn't get in for Elle, so fuck them.
You know, all I'm going to say is maybe you're right. I mean, I think Anatomy of a Fall just doesn't feel like the kind of movie to show up at SAG.
Well,
but
because it's international.
But still be just fine.
Be
right?
just
like,
fine.
Still fine. Do great at BAFTA.
Who I'm tempted by is actually Greta Lee. I think Past Lives was being underestimated all year as like, oh, that movie's just barely getting in. Oh, they're not going to remember it. And oh, the passion, it's like dwindling. But everybody loves this movie. That's just a fact. And I feel like if it was completely absent from the SAG Awards, it'd be like, huh. Like, why wouldn't Past Lives appeal to SAG?
Oh,
why shouldn't it?
It definitely will. Everybody loves
you say
Past
it will,
Lives.
but if we don't predict Greta Lee, you're going to have it getting 0 SAG nominations.
Yeah, I know.
I'm listening. It feels wrong to me. And I get that Greta Lee is subtle and stuff, but like I don't think she's been doing a good job campaigning and getting out there.
Sure.
And she's gotten her Golden Globe and Critics' Choice nomination so far. And she might get BAFTA. Like, I think she's kind of on track for an Oscar nomination. I even think that Past Lives could do, and this just makes sense, like, in my head, like, just disregarding who could miss to get this. Like, Past Lives might just go picture, director, screenplay, actress at the Oscars. And it'd be like, well, that makes sense because it was a really strong movie. Maybe Greta Lee misses because she's less of a celeb than other people, which certainly you do have to factor that into SAG a little bit.
But she definitely has a crowd that's, like, really hyping her up. There's a lot of cheering for Greta Lee.
For those reasons, I would put her at a firm number 6. Past Lives, I just think that it may have a presence at SAG in a nomination. And there's a good case for her that maybe some
It's
people
really the only nomination that it could get here, right? The only counter argument I have is that her performance doesn't feel like quite as juggernaut of a performance as like, you know, the lead in the musical, The Color Purple.
No, they don't like the subtle stuff as much, which is why it's fine to have Carey Mulligan and Fantasia Barrino.
If she does get in here, that's like super strong.
Oh yeah, she'd become like basically a lock almost.
And then, you know, at the Oscars, I'm gonna exchange Margot Robbie for Sandra Hüller and predict that, and then maybe even Greta Lee for Fantasia Barrino.
Most people are predicting, I think, not Fantasia Barrino. Like people actually seem to think that The Color Purple is so dead that she's just not happening, but it actually is in the consensus 5 on Gold Derby for Ensemble and Brooks. So like, really? Like, you think that she's not going to come along? Like,
well,
really?
If this movie doesn't get actress, I think that's like a huge loss for it. And, you know, it's just piles on to like an overall underperformance. Maybe people are right that like, you know, you don't want to like turn around and start predicting it suddenly when, you know, it's been just missing.
Yeah,
right?
We are predicting it to randomly have like this W.
Yeah.
The only W it had was
like
Christmas Day, and then every day after Christmas Day, it just paled in comparison to that one day, and so everyone called it a flop. But it also did make like $50 million something, which is not what it wants. Like, it wants more than that, but that's still like more than most of the Oscar movies are making. Natalie Portman's not doing it. I don't think she's gonna make
here,
it.
probably.
No. And that's probably about it for actress. Best actor, you know we have Cillian Murphy in. You know we have Bradley Cooper in. By the way, do you think that that SAG could turn it around here?
Not really. I think they're going to just fall in line with Cillian Murphy.
I mean, look, if Carey Mulligan got snubbed, it'd be very obvious. Paul Giamatti and the Holders. I mean, maybe he's number 2, honestly. Like, you could make the argument.
Sure. What if he got crazily snubbed here?
No. I'm not. Okay. I'm not willing to accept that Paul Giamatti's getting snubbed this year. Anywhere.
I know.
And Jeffrey Wright, I think, is definitely in for American Fiction.
Yep.
If that didn't get him,
for sure.
Nuts.
For sure.
Why are people taking DiCaprio out for Killers of the Flower Moon? And it's not just us.
And a lot of people are doing that.
Yeah, and here's why.
I feel an urge to do it here also.
He is not campaigning that much. He's like literally just trying not to campaign. I do feel that all the attention's been so centered around Lily Gladstone. Critics groups are leaving him out too, but they're leaving him and De Niro like similarly. They're not doing that well at the critics groups, and so a lot of people think that him and De Niro will miss. That'd be like kind of nuts for them both to miss, I think.
Yeah.
Almost a little too nuts for me, but I also could see it. I also just think that there's a really compelling option here, a very SAG-friendly option. In Coleman Domingo.
Yep.
My God, that was a SAG-friendly, fun, energetic performance.
Clap your hands kind of thing.
Clap your hands. I feel like Coleman Domingo has definitely built up a lot of industry credit at this point that he should be getting nominated.
I agree with your top 5 here. I don't have any quibbles with it. I'm weirdly okay with leaving Leonardo DiCaprio out. Weirdly okay with it.
Yeah, well, maybe that's the thing. Maybe he's like the one this year that's like the Michelle Williams Fabelmans, and maybe he makes it into the Oscar because
maybe
that's just safe along with the movie, and they will snub Rustin because it's not. Zac Efron, there's a case that like the buzz that's been building for him since the movie came out will actually like manifest something here. But I would say this: late movies don't typically do the best at SAG. And I'll tell you this, in terms of screeners, which everybody knows screeners are important, A24, they didn't seem like they were on their screener game this year that much. Past Lives would probably have the benefit of being out for a long time. I mean, maybe I'm just speaking out of nothing, like this is not data.
Sure.
I don't know if I can go and the extra mile and predict that Zac Efron actually will show up for the Iron Claw here, but I understand why.
It's too hard for me to like kick somebody else out for that, but if you're rooting for it, like, God bless, good luck, I guess. If it happens, I would cheer it. I also really like the top 5, so I might actually be a little bit hostile because I don't want this to move. Personally, I actually really like the top 5.
Barry Keoghan and Saltburn.
He's like a wild card. Like,
I think he's
you have to mention him. Yeah. I can't make the case for it, but you can give him a mention if they fucking love Saltburn for whatever. I mean, I still think if they love Saltburn, you're not gonna see like something like Barry Keoghan go along with it. You just see it SAG Ensemble and he would still maybe be left out.
He doesn't seem like a top 5 person to me. Also interesting about SAG this year is that because the Globes are doing categories of 6 and the Critics' Choice are doing categories of 6, this is the first time we're getting a big show with a category of 5. Like, if you want to say that Jodie Foster or Julianne Moore or whoever you want was just riding in on those 6 slots, then this is where you get to see who's maybe not making that cutoff. Andrew Scott, I think he'll get the BAFTA nomination. He'll have Golden Globe and BAFTA, and there's a very good case that he actually might get in for the Oscar if you have that, and like be the one nomination for that movie, because that movie did well enough with like the international bodies and making that BAFTA 10 that it'd be kind of crazy for it to get nothing, and this is clearly the most likely for it. So he might actually get the Oscar nomination, but he's certainly not going to get this.
No,
it's just not going to happen.
And Teo Yu, I mean, how great would that be if the guy came along for Past Lives? Yeah. But probably not.
And finally, let's look at SAG Ensemble. So I do think that, Barbie Bonanza could happen here.
Yeah.
Oppenheimer has been winning more critics awards, and I get it, and it makes sense, and it deserves it. But we know that SAG likes to have a little party. We know that they like some balloons. And there was no balloonier movie this year than Barbie.
If there was a movie about a family, that would maybe take over for the number 1 and win it. Like, they love when movies are about like a family of 5. Now, Killers of the Flower Moon is a little bit about a family. There's a guy with his wife and his uncle, but not a very
sweet
portrait of life in the American Southwest.
I think Killers is very in there.
I think it's pretty in there.
It's partly because you have like these veteran actors like De Niro and DiCaprio, but then you have like Native American representation in a more popular film than I think has happened before.
Killers of the Flower Moon is spotlighting a lot of Native American talent, and SAG loves to see that.
Even the BAFTAs recognized that one actress who played her sister on the 10. The Color Purple, I don't have a problem saying it's getting in. Like, I get that the movie could just be...
It's too
like,
much of a
if
SAG
it's so
ensemble
weak that it can't even get this, you know, I'll throw my hands up and say, like, Brooks is in trouble. I don't know. I think it can get this. And it's one of those things where, you know, in the last couple of years, we try to rack our brains and go, oh my God, Elvis, they're liking it so much. What if that gets ensemble? Oh my God, what about Top Gun Maverick for ensemble? But really, last year when Women Talking came up and we were like, oh my God, the movie's weak, it's not going to get in. When it came up, I was like, I mean, it kind of made sense the whole time. Like, it just made sense the whole time. Like, forget about that it didn't do that well overall and that it was kind of weak. Like, it felt like it made sense. And Babylon, in a way, was like, okay, I mean, look, it was an ensemble movie. The movie wasn't doing that well overall. It flopped at the box office. It still showed up in an ensemble. So why can't The Color Purple show up?
You know what's weird? I feel like we had this exact 5 at some point, like, earlier on in the year. Because we were definitely predicting, like, Barbie, Oppenheimer, Killers, Color Purple at some point, and I feel like we threw Saltburn in before it premiered.
Yeah, that is possible, though. We might have had this, like, way early
We have to go back and look. Maybe
I will say The Holdovers is doing well with critics. It's, like, number 4 or something. Like, they're giving it nominations.
Yeah.
I do think, though, that, you know, with SAG, you want to see more than 3 performances to get something nominated. And, like, you know, there's the teacher that Paul Giamatti likes. Yeah. There's a couple other students that are good, but you just don't walk away remembering those performances so much.
Yeah.
It's really the central 3, and I just don't know that that's enough. In the same way that Past Lives and May, December, I don't think have a shot here.
I think there's just a feeling that people get about, like, the ensemble as a whole, what the unity is with that. It has to feel large. Air, on the other hand, is a film that really feels like an ensemble player, and they do love to see that. You've got like 5 or 6 really good performances in Air.
Air, I have a similar justification to The Color Purple, where it's like, okay, that makes sense. It always felt like it made sense, right? Like, if it comes up, I'll be like, okay, wow. I mean, sure.
Yeah.
That was the definition of an ensemble movie in many ways.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely considering Air. Where's Poor Things? Why is it not on the 5?
Yeah, see, this is like the movie that doesn't make any sense to me, but is almost always a thing at SAG, where like,
almost always.
There's some movie like Marriage Story where you're like, oh my God,
The Shape of Water.
So good. The Shape of Water.
And The Favorite.
Well, that was actually getting nominations. But I'm talking about, like...
You're right, it was getting more nominations, yeah.
Yeah, The Favorite was like a real shocker. But there are certain films that, you know, they start rolling around in award season, and they may be doing great. They may be like best picture winner, Shape of Water.
High Power of the Dog.
But I'm even more baffled by The Shape of Water and Marriage Story, because there's so many performances in there. And then people just don't really think of them as an ensemble movie for some reason. Like, they're just not really picking up nominations for ensemble.
The extent to which Poor Things isn't being considered an ensemble by critics so far is actually striking.
Yeah,
striking. Like, striking.
When I saw it, I was like, that could win SAG Ensemble. Why not? Not only does it have a big cast, and there's like at least 5 notable performances, it's also a rah-rah movie. You'd think SAG would like it. You'd think it'd be like a fun ensemble. Like, hey, get them up on stage. But it's not that. It's not a get them up on stage.
I mean, wait, maybe it is.
But it's just not a get them up on stage.
I agree, though, that it feels like the movie that just is missing, and it's odd. And that's all I can say. I don't know why nobody else is kind of noticing that, like, oh, hey, like, it didn't even make Critics' Choice 6. Like, it didn't even make the Critics' Choice 6, and they gave it to The Favorite. Like, what's going on here? Like, what's going on here?
What's going on here is I can justify not having it in the top 5 easily.
Yeah, and there's got to be a snub like that. The final thing I'm considering, like, really heavily is American Fiction.
Yeah.
You know, even at TIFF, we were like, okay, if this really is a Best Picture thing, then man, can it get ensemble?
Right.
There's a lot of really good performances in there.
Right. And it's about a family.
Yeah.
And it's fun. It's a comedy.
Maybe you could make the case, though, American Fiction is not enough of, like, a top 5 movie. Whereas I think if it felt more like, oh, this movie really might be, like, gearing up to win screenplay right now, and, like...
Which I was thinking for a while.
Yeah.
There was a while where I was like, this is the movie that sneaks into SAG Ensemble. This is just it. And then here I am, like, predicting Saltburn. I definitely feel a little weird about it. Like, wouldn't you, like, kind of slap yourself in the forehead if you were wrong about it?
No. That's not the only one I'm slapping myself on the forehead about. I would slap myself on the forehead if Air happened.
Really?
Because I actually am, like...
I wouldn't blame myself for that. I would go easy on myself.
I would blame myself for Air, because I'd be like, well, yeah.
But that's how I'd feel about American Fiction. I'd be like, well, yeah, that's a rah-rah fun comedy SAG movie with like a guaranteed acting nomination in it.
I also want to say, nobody on Gold Derby, be it in the experts or the top 24 like all-stars, is predicting Saltburn for ensemble or Rosamund Pike. But that kind of makes me want to say, like, okay, like, you all think that, like, it's nothing, but I actually think that it was a pretty popular, like, buzzy movie, okay?
Yeah.
And
Babylon is a very good comparison here.
Air and American Fiction are strong. So, like, do I predict Saltburn? You know, like
Yeah.
if I could throw Air in there, I wouldn't really have that much of a problem with it.
You know, American Fiction does feel like the movie that blindsides us, that we say, like, why the fuck didn't I put that in there?
Remember when House of Gucci got 3 SAG nominations too? What if that's Salt?
fucking
What if
nuts.
that's a little bit Saltburn?
Sure, but I think more people were predicting like one of the actors to get in. Or definitely. I think everyone was predicting the 2 actors. Also, you know, for the past 2 years, there's been a movie I was confident in and it didn't get in. Like, I was confident that The Harder They Would Fall would get in, and I was confident that The Woman King would get in. And they both did not get in. So I don't know if I'm doing that with The Color Purple or not.
It doesn't feel like that to me. It also might get 2 acting nominations.
If I were going to play it safe, I would put American Fiction in over.
I agree.
I don't know. Maybe it's Air. Fucking goddamn it.
I know. That's how I feel.
Right?
Like
Like, maybe it is Air.
Let's move on to DGA. For the first time category, let's just like quickly breeze through this. Like, Celine Song is going to win, obviously.
Yeah.
Cord Jefferson's going to be nominated. Avery Rockwell, I would say, is almost locked in for 1001. That just feels right.
It's a great nomination.
Michael B. Jordan for Creed 3. I think they would do that.
Yep.
I think they would do that.
not?
The last slot could be anything. I think it could be Frances O'Connor for Emily, the director of Polite Society. I would love to see it be Danny and Michael Philippou for Talk to Me.
Yeah.
But
That'd be great.
they didn't nominate Ari Aster for Hereditary, and when they do nominate a horror movie, it's usually like A Quiet Place, like a bigger movie.
I would love to see Rain Allen Miller for Riley.
Oh, yeah.
That would be a very sweet treat.
But I just don't think that's going to happen either. I think that Charlotte Reagan is an okay shot for Scrapper for some reason.
Okay.
I don't know why.
But Riley was like really well directed though.
I'm feeling too disappointed by how people have been paying attention to that movie though. All right, so DGA director. Nolan is going to win. Thanks for playing. Scorsese's getting nominated. Gerwig's getting... Gerwig might be number 2.
Yeah.
You could argue Gerwig's number 2 for this award.
Yeah, she feels really in there.
Yorgos Lanthimos.
Pretty in there.
He didn't get in for The Favorite, but I feel like
That's
he's
nuts,
been playing...
actually, that he didn't get in for The Favorite.
He's been playing well in places that he hasn't been, though.
It's a top movie, so.
Yeah. I think we should be considering Bradley Cooper and Alexander Payne maybe for that last slot.
I would go between those 2.
The case for Cooper is he got nominated for Star is Born. This movie is even more visually, like, insane. And he stepped up his game, and he's just really flexing his strengths as a director, at least visually.
Yep. Maestro's an impressive film.
The case against Cooper is that Maestro feels a little weak in some ways.
Sure.
I mean, look, when it got all those BAFTA long lists, I think a lot of people said, oh, well, hey, hold on. Let's pump the brakes on saying Maestro's weak, all right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, you know, Saltburn got 11 and House of Gucci got like 13. So you can't always say that matters. A bunch of long lists. Like, what if that movie only gets like 2 nominations? So we'll see. But I do think that Maestro is not like the populist movie. Alexander Payne didn't get nominated for Nebraska. He got nominated for Descendants and Sideways. But Nebraska does, you know, it always did feel like a little bit more arty.
Yeah, that was a
The
real
Holdovers
shocker.
doesn't feel like that. It'd be weird because we always said, okay, who likes Alexander Payne the most? It's the Globes and the Oscars, right? Maybe there's a world where he gets DGA, but he doesn't get Oscar this year. Like, maybe it's just a little weird. Maybe it's a little inconsistent.
Well, the Globes completely flopped on that. Yeah, this is kind of a coin toss to me. I mean, I guess I wouldn't be surprised either way it goes.
Last year they nominated Kaczynski for Top Gun Maverick. Like, they're not... And remember Taika Waititi for Jojo Rabbit. Like, he didn't get Critics' Choice and Golden Globe, but sometimes they throw in people who don't get those awards. Yeah. Payne got the Critics' Choice, if I'm not mistaken. He did make it in. I wouldn't be shocked if Celine Song got it. I think she's a contender. I think Cord Jefferson is a dark horse for American Fiction.
Trier and Glazer, like, I don't think they have a 0 shot at the Oscar, but hey, I don't think it's going to happen here.
Definitely
They're not really the kind of body to do that.
I definitely don't.
Todd Haynes for May December, you know, kind of the same thing. I mean, that in the weirdest possible way, like there's like a 0.5% chance for me that happens.
The Holdovers is a bigger contender than Maestro overall, and it's also like, you know,
not that much bigger though. They're kind of equal. I mean, I know film Twitter feels differently about it, but
The Holdovers is more likely to win screenplay, and it's winning supporting actress. Maestro is probably going to win no Oscars. The Holdovers is also more likely number 5 than Maestro for Best Picture.
Yeah.
And it also has much better audience scores.
People are more impressed with Maestro on a technical level, and that's where I'm like trying to weigh the decision. I think maybe I'll go with The Holdovers because it's more popular and more well-liked.
Why isn't Past Lives Lady Bird?
I'm predicting Past Lives for director at the Oscars right now.
It'll be very exciting to see these awards. Thanks for going to join us for the reactions when that happens.
I'm ready. I'm ready to freak out. The SAGs are usually like a good freak out.
Thank you for watching. Thank you for subscribing.
Can you convince us that Saltburn was an insane prediction?